In the middle of the driest desert in northwestern China, massive structures have suddenly appeared, capturing the attention of intelligence agencies worldwide. Giant replicas of U.S. Navy warships built directly into the sea of sand. These are not simple scale models. They are colossal, full-scale structures, some stretching over 300 meters long, perfectly mirroring a modern American aircraft carrier. They are so detailed that they can be clearly seen from space by commercial satellites. And here is the most intriguing detail. China made zero effort to hide any of this. They left it out in the open, as if they wanted it to be found. Construction began around 2020 and continues to expand. With every new satellite image, a calculated shift in global naval power is revealed. The chosen location was the Taklamakan Desert, the world's second-largest shifting sand desert, larger than the entire country of Italy. Temperatures here swing from minus 20 degrees in the winter to over 50 degrees Celsius in the summer, with sandstorms capable of burying vehicles in hours. With no cities, no towns, and no major highways, this extreme isolation provides the ultimate full-scale testing lab. Far from prying eyes on the ground, but completely exposed to anyone watching from orbit. The first replica identified was a Gerald R. Ford-class aircraft carrier, the most advanced warship in the U.S. fleet. The Chinese military replicated every critical detail: the island superstructure in its exact position, the angled flight deck, and even the weapon elevators that transport aircraft from the hangar to the deck. Just miles away, another target emerged, an Arleigh Burke-class guided missile destroyer, measuring 155 meters long. The exact ship responsible for escorting and protecting American carriers from incoming attacks. These were not random targets. They were faithful recreations of an entire U.S. carrier strike group. Which raises a critical question: why reproduce these exact ships? Hundreds of metal poles, some standing over 20 meters high, are mounted across the replicas. They serve as sensors to track the precise impact point of incoming missiles, while also acting as radar reflectors, mimicking the radar signature of a real steel hull. They are targets built for high-stakes combat simulations. But what came next was even more shocking. Over 8 kilometers of railway tracks were laid across the desert, featuring tight, sweeping curves. Satellite imagery revealed that a full-scale carrier mock-up is actually mounted on a massive Mobi platform that travels along these tracks. The structure has been photographed in multiple different locations, proving it is fully mobile. Think about what that means. They are simulating the evasive maneuvers a real aircraft carrier would make in open water, accelerating, changing course, and trying to escape. The platform can hit speeds of around 55 kilometers per hour, creating realistic pursuit scenarios where live missiles are fired at moving targets. It is a level of training never seen before. And all of this serves one specific purpose: perfecting the DF-21D anti-ship ballistic missile, infamously nicknamed the Carrier Killer. Measuring nearly 11 meters long and weighing roughly 15 tons, the DF-21D can be launched from mobile truck launchers deep within the mainland, boasting a range well over 1,500 kilometers. However, the real threat is not just its range or destructive power. It is what happens in the final seconds before impact. While conventional ballistic missiles follow a predictable trajectory, the DF-21D releases a maneuverable warhead during its terminal phase. Plunging at hypersonic speeds, it can adjust its flight path in mid-air, locking onto and tracking a moving target. Hitting a 300-meter ship moving at 30 knots from 1,000 miles away was a technological feat few thought possible. Yet, the impact craters on these desert replicas, concentrated directly on the most critical structural points, show that China's tests are yielding real results. And this changes everything. American aircraft carriers are the ultimate symbol of global military dominance. Each one costs around $13 billion, carries more than 75 advanced aircraft, and functions as a sovereign floating airbase anywhere on Earth. They are the backbone of America's power projection. Now, consider this reality. If these carriers cannot operate near the Chinese coast without facing immediate destruction, their strategic value collapses. Carrier-based aircraft have a limited combat radius. If a carrier group is forced to stay 2,000 kilometers away from the mainland, its strike fighters simply cannot reach inland targets effectively without vulnerable aerial refueling. It renders the most expensive weapon in naval history practically unusable where it is needed most. This dynamic explains the explosive tension in two critical flashpoints, the South China Sea and the Taiwan Strait. China has already transformed submerged reefs into militarized outposts, pumping millions of tons of sand to build artificial islands complete with airstrips, radar domes, hardened hangars, and missile batteries. One of these former reefs now operates essentially as an unsinkable aircraft carrier anchored in the middle of the ocean. The United States responds with freedom of navigation operations, sending warships through these waters to assert international maritime rights. Meanwhile, Taiwan, a self-governing democracy of 24 million people, finds itself directly in the crosshairs. Beijing views the island as a breakaway province that must be reunified by force if necessary. In 2022, following a high-level U.S. diplomatic visit, China launched 11 ballistic missiles around Taiwan, with 4 flying directly over the island. The message was unmistakable. With only 160 kilometers separating Taiwan from the mainland, its vulnerability is absolute. Satellite imagery from late 2023 confirmed further escalation. Fresh impact craters were spotted directly on the command superstructure and aircraft elevators of the carrier mock-up. These were not random hits. They were pinpoint strikes designed to completely paralyze a warship's flight operations. Since 2013, China has expanded its own fleet from 0 to 3 operational aircraft carriers, with more advanced models under construction. Yet, while building its own navy, Beijing has heavily prioritized the weapons designed to wipe out the adversary's fleet, a calculated two-track strategy to redefine naval supremacy. Perhaps the most revealing factor is this. All of this testing could have been concealed in remote mountain facilities or underground tunnels. China chose to build them in plain sight. In military doctrine, this is known as deterrence through demonstration. You do not need to fire a shot in actual combat if your adversary already knows your weapons work. Every satellite photo of a cracked, pulverized mock-up delivers a clear warning. Your multi-billion-dollar carriers are not safe here. And the strategy is already working. Pentagon reports indicate that U.S. naval planners are developing operational doctrines that keep carrier strike groups well outside the first island chain, vastly altering America's rapid response capabilities. Without firing a single live round in wartime, China is already pushing the U.S. Navy further back into the Pacific. What is happening in the Taklamakan Desert is far more than routine military training. It is the visible front line of a quiet arms race that will shape the balance of power for decades to come. Deep behind the dunes, a new map of global naval dominance is being drawn. Who do you think holds the upper hand in a potential naval conflict? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. Thanks for watching and see you next time.